Okay, good evening to everyone, and I congratulate you that you have the patience to come already to the third lecture in our HogwartsX courses on introduction to water sector in Uzbekistan. And today we're going to discuss about the management. So we discussed from where we take the water, we discussed where do we spend the water. Today we're going to discuss who decides where to spend the water, who is responsible for water. And we're going to discuss today different cases, different current, past, and future problems of Uzbekistan, and think about who is responsible for those water related problems. Yes. So let's start. Basically, there are many organizations responsible for water in Uzbekistan, but the most obvious institution responsible for water in Uzbekistan is, of course, Ministry of Water Resources in the Republic of Uzbekistan. So, let's start with a story. I don't want to tell you some monotonous information about every organization, but let's start with a story. So spring comes and the ice on the mountains starts melting, and the big rivers of Amudarya and Sirdarya became full with water, and this water starts to flow down from those mountains. And then the five countries in Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan, should gather together and discuss who is going to spend which amount of water. In that discussion, there are two main parties participating from Uzbekistan. This is our president and the Minister of Water Resources. They are also coming to this meeting in order to discuss the interests of Uzbekistan. They will be telling, okay, buddies, we are going to spend this amount of Amudarya and we're going to spend this amount of Sirdarya. That's it. This is the main result of these discussions. They are going to protect the interests of Uzbekistan and secure the water for us to use it. Yes? So it might sound easy, but in fact it's not easy at all, because every president and minister is responsible for his own country and everyone tries to pick the biggest piece, right? So it's not always easy. It's never easy, actually. And so what happens next? Let's say our minister and the president was able to secure a certain amount of water in our rivers. What happens next is that now the president leaves in order to do his other duties. The minister of water comes, so like this handsome man, yes, I wish all men in ministry would be this handsome, but let's say like this kind of handsome man comes and decides how much water is going to be distributed to every sector in Uzbekistan. So this is another meeting where Ministry of Agriculture comes, then people from Uzsuvtaminot comes and say, hey, we need 5.1% of all the water that Uzbekistan has in order to provide it to people. And then agriculture minister comes and say, we need 90% of water in order to water the crops and feed the people, and so on and so forth. And then the main task of Ministry of Water Resources is to make sure that every sector has enough quantity of water to spend. Yes. So the Ministry of Water Resources only responsibility is the quantity of water. They make sure that every organization have exact amount of volume of water. This is their responsibility, is to distribute the water in Uzbekistan. That's it. So even in this picture, you can see that the water coming from mountains, right, is coming to Uzbekistan, and this ministry, yes, this minister, this handsome man is distributing it to different sectors, to people, to crop, and to industry. So this is their main responsibility in Uzbekistan, the distribution, right? So this is not an easy, it's not just a math, it's not just dividing water, it's also distributing the water from rivers to those sectors, right? So it's a lot of water. There are pumps, there are people, they have to pump the water from rivers to the places. It's not an easy job. It's not easy. Never was easy. So what happens next is that now we leave that meeting where different ministries in Uzbekistan were deciding how much water they will take. So the main boss in Uzsuvtaminot, he secured 5.1% of water for us, for people to consume. So what is his job is next is to distribute this water to us. Make sure that the water that people drink is safe to drink, and then the water that we made dirty is cleaned in the like what is the word, in the good way, yeah, in a proper way, for it to be returned to nature, for it to be returned to environment. So this is his main job, and his job is not easy because he's dealing with human health. And oh my god, if he does something wrong in water treatment plant and the water that human drink is not clean, and it will cause some illnesses, his employees and a lot of other people will go to jail. Why? Because they are messing with human health. Their job is very, very, very stressful because they are providing something that everyone in Uzbekistan consumes. It goes into our bodies, and they should make sure that this water is very, very clean because otherwise they're messing with our health. And our health is not a toy to play with. They should be very, very much careful. And now when they're treating the dirty water, the water that we made dirty, it's also very important because they are treating the water that will be released to nature. If they don't treat it in the good, proper way, what happens is that the river to where they discharge that treated wastewater might get polluted. Fish will die, plants will die, everything will die. It's a very risky job as well. There is a huge responsibility, and Uzsuvtaminot is responsible for that. Next comes Ministry of Agriculture. So from that meeting, he was able to secure around 90% of water in Uzbekistan. And his role is to distribute that water to other farmers and decide what kind of crops they are going to raise, right? Not decide, because now in Uzbekistan farmers decide on their own what kind of crops they will be raising this year, right? So his job is to make sure that every farmer is using the water in the right, proper way. This is mainly his job. Yes. And then we have Ministry of Ecology and Environmental Protection. So, oh my god, is this man standing on water? So they are so light, you see, they're so light that they can stand on the water. At least Gemini thinks so. So, yeah, if Ministry of Water Resources, the only concern is the quantity of water, then the quality of water is the concern of Ministry of Ecology. So they should make sure that the water we have is safe for both people and environment. This is their main concern. They will be concerned about whether this water has enough minerals, it doesn't have any toxic things, and so on and so forth. It's them who tell to Uzsuvtaminot, remember the organization that provides water to people, it's their responsibility to tell to Uzsuvtaminot what kind of quality should drinking water have. Right? So they will tell, hey Uzsuvtaminot, you're providing water to people for drinking. So this water should be this much clean, this water should have this much salt, this water should not have this and that and this and those toxic things. It's their responsibility. And also it's their responsibility to make sure that every river, every water body in Uzbekistan is in a good quality, is in a good shape, and it's their responsibility to make sure that no plant like this, no industry is polluting water, air, or nature. Yes, so if and it's their responsibility to always monitor and control it. If they notice that some industry or plant is polluting our nature, our water, they have the right to stop their work. They have the right to fine their work, so they will require some payments in order to for their bad work, right? They harm the nature. And also it's their responsibility to put people in jail. Yes, to put people in jail if they're making bad things. It's their responsibility too. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So these are the 4 very big management bodies in Uzbekistan that are looking after water in Uzbekistan. Yes, and if you want like some text explanation of their responsibilities, here you go. These are the primary organizations, and again, it's in my opinion, and I'm just a student. I might be wrong. You, the viewer, or my listener, or my student, you might think that there are some other primary organizations as well. You're welcome to just write in the chat, or if you're watching us on YouTube, to write in the comment section what kind of organizations you think are important as well. But in my opinion, these are the organizations that are primary for water management. Then we have also secondary organizations who play the key role in the water management. So the first one is the research institution is Uzhydromet. So their responsibility is basically analysis, the research and analysis. So they measure the chemical level, they provide chemical analysis of water bodies, of groundwater bodies in Uzbekistan throughout the year. They monitor everything, they make sure that the water is clean enough based on different standards. And also Uzhydromet is the organization that is responsible to predict how much water we're going to have the next year. So I've done internship in that research institution as well. They have even the people who go to mountains every year, to mountain glaciers, and they measure how much snow they have there, and then they conduct their own calculations and they predict how much of water we're going to have the next year. Yes, and then we have the State Committee on Geology and Mineral Resources. So they're basically responsible for the groundwater, and as I have told many times, groundwater is also very much important. Then we have the Ministry of Emergency Situations. So if something very much bad happens with water, this is their responsibility to take immediate action. So I'm not sure whether you've heard of Sardoba disaster, Sardoba catastrophe in Uzbekistan. So if you haven't heard of it, so basically in May or March of 2020, we had this huge water reservoir called Sardoba in Sirdarya, and every reservoir has its dam. So what happened is that the dam in this Sirdarya, it broke, and it flooded a lot of villages, a lot of regions, and people died. People were left with no home. People were left with no property, so their money, their phones, their clothes, everything was washed away. Water is very important, but water is also very powerful, and it has a destructive effect on things if left uncontrolled. So the Ministry of Emergency Situations takes the first immediate action in order to take care of the situation. So they were the ones who went to the place the first, they took care of people, and so on and so forth. Yes, for example, in Tashkent, if something happens to our dam in Chirchuk, then the whole Tashkent will be flooded. The whole Tashkent will be flooded, and the Ministry of Emergency Situations is going to take the very first action. Then we have Sanat Gyokon Techno Nazorat. Oh my god, so mouthful. So they supervise the technical safety and of large hydraulic structures and water-related industrial sites. So if you want to build a wastewater plant, a dam, a new reservoir, it's them who is responsible to monitor that everything is done in a good way. And then we have regional water consumer associations. So these are smaller organizations that are managed by just people with no ranks, yes. And these are just consumer associations, yes. So let's go through their websites, right? So we learned about their responsibilities. What should we do if we want to take more information about them? So basically, whenever you want an information about any organization in Uzbekistan, the first action is Google about them, right? Ministry of Water Resources in Uzbekistan. So today I'm sleepy. Okay, my internet is taking a little bit of time. So Ministry of Water Resources of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And here is everything about this ministry. You can look about the ministry, structure of the organization, administration, regional department board, and so on and so forth. What I like more is documents. For example, if you want to make a research in this segment, right, you can always see that they have, for example, some statistics. Statistics are always good. I like statistics. For example, here you can see we have some statistics on where the water goes. So we have, you see, for example, what do they say? Respublikada olinayotgan yillik suv miqdorining o'zgarishi. For example, in 1990s, we used to consume around 64 billion cubic meters of water, and now we decreased it to 45, which is a great thing for us, in fact. Yes. Then you can go economic societies with state share, internal audit, the terms of use, placement, anti-corruption, and so on, normative legal documents. No data for now. Yes, so basically this place has a lot of information, especially if you search, for example, in Uzbek. Usually in English you will not be able to find a lot of information simply because no one wants to translate it, right, for you. So this is the advantage of being Uzbek or Russian, because in these languages Central Asia is able to provide way more documents than in English. So you can see here that there are more. So here you can see a lot of documents, and yeah, have fun. Statistic malumatlar, have fun, go through it, look through it. Yes, so basically for Ministry of Water Resources, their biggest document would be maybe Water Strategy 2030 Uzbekistan. This is a very good document. It's describing what kind of strategy we're going to have. Yes. So it's inside Uzbekistan 2030 strategy, and describes what kind of actions we are planning to take in the sector of water. And it's a very good document. So you're welcome to read it. Then what else? So we have also Uzsuvtaminot. So here is their website. Today is a sleepy day. I like digging inside of the websites of these organizations. There is always so much data, so much information. You can take, you can dig, you can use in your own research. I love it. For example, açık malumatlar. Yes, let's go. Boş iş oranları. If you want to work here. Yes. Normatif hüccetler. Kanunlar. Yes, so a lot of documents, a lot of documents, and basically they had their own concepts, yeah. So let me just, where can I change the language? So for example, you can see normatif hüccetler, akhbarat tizimi, Aqua Journalı. They have their own journal as well. Yes, it's so good. They also should have somewhere their concept. Their concept, yes, açık malumatlar. Basically, I found this many times ago and I can just show you this one. So they have the concept that you should be able to find. It's in Russian, so maybe if I would change the language of the search, I would be able to find. So they have this concept. Концепция комплексного развития и модернизации систем водоснабжения и канализации Республики Узбекистан на период до 1935 года. Yes. So, and in this document, they are describing what kind of things they want to do, and the most important thing is they are giving very good statistics on the current state of Uzsuvtaminot. And the current state is around 2019 or 2020 data, but still good for comparison. And I love reading such documents because they give so much information. When you start doing your research, let me know, I'm gonna help you. And make sure that you are really carefully listening right now because I'm showing very good places where you can get the data. Yes, so basically have some fun, go through their websites, learn about them, follow them on social media, and yes, now you know their responsibilities. And if something happens, you know from whom you are going to ask. Yes, and now let's check whether you know from whom to ask if something happens. Yes, so why does it matter? Why does it matter that we learn these things? Let's check whether you can acquire them. So for example, in your home you have a bad tap water. So what does it mean bad? The bad tap water means a lot of things. It can have toxic things inside. It can have some microbes. It can have bacteria. But usually bad tap water is the water that is hard. Hard means it has some calcium and manganese ions, magnesium ions inside. And these things leave such these scales. So basically, if this is the case with your water, then Uzsuvtaminot is the one to blame, is the one to ask from, is the one to require a good water from. It's their responsibility to provide you a good water in your home. Or, for example, excuse me. So for example, this summer there was breaking news about the fact that our Chirchik river is being polluted. Can you see? This is the Chirchik river in Uzbekistan. And what happens is that here you can see that the normal water is coming, and here you can see that this polluted, brownish, very bad water is coming. So if you can see that, it's very bad. It's already aesthetically not good, and God knows what kind of chemicals was there inside of this water. So basically, if you notice something like this, I'm sorry, if you notice something like this, then you immediately know whose responsibility is it to take the action. And basically, if it's not the quantity but the quality of water in natural resources, any resources, then it's the responsibility of Ministry of Ecology to take the immediate action, because they're responsible for the quality of water. Then we have these inefficient water usage cases. So here opinions divide. Some think that Ministry of Water Resources should be responsible. I think that Ministry of Agriculture should be responsible, because it's also their responsibility to communicate with farmers, to decide who is going to do how are they going to use the water, right? So if you see inefficient water usage in fields while raising crops, then it's the responsibility of farmers to make sure that we use our water in a good, proper way. And for example, there is also this global issue of loss of ice coverage in mountains. So whose responsibility is it? So basically, to detect this problem, it's responsibility of Uzhydromet. Do you remember I told you about this research institution where scientists they wear heavy coats, the heavy boots, they go hiking to mountains, they climb, they go to those places with ice covered. Oh, excuse me. With ice coverage, they measure how much ice decreased in its size, and depending on how much less of ice we have, they can predict that, oh, the coming year we will have less water, or oh, the coming year we're going to have more water. So it's their responsibility. So once they predict how much water we're going to have for this coming week, then it is the responsibility of whom? Of Ministry of Water Resources, in order to take that water and divide it throughout the Uzbekistan. Yes, so yeah, it's their responsibility. And now with that, I would like to finish our lecture. And yeah, the lecture was quite short, but it's okay, right? It's okay. So your home task is going to be pretty much interesting. So your task is to research about so we have talked about the past and present issues. Your responsibility will be to research about the future issues of Uzbekistan. If you know, Afghanistan recently decided to build a new canal, and its name is Qoshtepa Canal from Amudarya. And this Qoshtepa Canal is going to reduce the amount of water that is coming to Turkmenistan, and to reduce the amount of water that is coming to Uzbekistan. And with that, it's gonna create some of the issues for those regions that are located in the downhills of Amudarya. This is Kashkadaryo, this is Bukhara, this is Khwarezm, and this is Karakalpakstan. These regions are going to have very hard times in coming years if this situation is going to continue. Yes. So your home task will be to research about the Qoshtepa Canal and define key organizations that are responsible to react to this problem and to take some action. Yes. So you should research about it, and then you should describe about it, you should tell about what you found, and you should film yourself, this time not a piece of paper, not a screen of your laptop, but yourself describing this issue. Yes, and since you're filming yourself, the product will be again a video. Yes, and you're going to submit it again through Google form. Yes, so with that, our lecture finishes, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening to me. And if you have some questions, you're welcome to give them. Any questions? Great. So I see that no questions. So then I would I'm very happy that you are being patient, staying with me, and thank you a lot, and see you tomorrow. Yes, if you have any other questions that you couldn't give now, you're welcome to give them in our group chat.
Hi, Nargis.
Hi, Maftuna.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what was your role as an intern as Uzsuvtaminot?
In Uzhydromet, yes. So I was a research assistant there. So my role was to conduct chemical analysis of water from Charvak, the water from Chirchik, Ahangaron, Salar rivers, basically the rivers, the natural rivers outside Tashkent and inside of the Tashkent. People from those rivers would bring samples of water, so they would take a sample of water in those rivers, they would bring it to the research lab in Uzhydromet, and then I would take those waters and I would check for different ions. For example, I checked for amine ions, I checked for nitrates, so this is NO3, I checked for sulfates, SO4, for phosphate, yes, I checked for different ions, and then there is a normal concentration of these ions. So and then I checked whether the concentration of these ions is okay or not okay. Yes, if it's not okay, then something should be done. If it's okay, then it's okay. Yes, basically this was my responsibilities there. So it's pretty monotonous job. You just take the water, you analyze its chemical content, and yes, that's it. And you should be very much careful because your measurement is very much important, because it's going to tell whether the river is in okay condition or not okay. And if you measure incorrectly, you can be responsible for a very wrong decision in the future. Yes, so basically my responsibility was to conduct chemical analysis of water.
Yeah, I got it. And just one more question. What was the requirements, like internships?
Basically, there was no requirements. I just what I did is I went as an independent listener to National University, like Milli Universitet, to National University in Tashkent, and there is Professor Nishonov, and he was conducting lectures on surface water bodies in Uzbekistan. And then I was very much interested in his lecture and in his work, and I approached him and I asked, like, I want to work with you, how can I learn the same things that you're teaching? And then he invited me to his lab, and then I went to his lab and I started interning there. Yes, so they don't do some open calls like we're looking for internship students. They don't do that. It's basically you just go there yourself, you ask for a position, and you start interning there. Yes, and mine was not paid. There are paid positions in research institutions, and for those positions you should have a certain background. For example, for research assistant, in our language it's called laborant. You should be studying your bachelor's. You don't have to complete your bachelor's, you should be studying in bachelor's, right? And then you should have relevant knowledge in the sphere. Yes, basically. But my position was unpaid, so they didn't have a lot of requirements for me because it was purely for my knowledge, for the sake of me learning. Great. Any other question? Nice. So if you stick till the end, the last lecture, the sixth lecture, is going to be about careers in water sector, and I'm going to talk about where you could potentially work if you want to continue in being in water. where you could work inside of Uzbekistan and outside of Uzbekistan in international arena. Yes, so that lecture can be also very interesting. Yes, so with that said, thank you to everyone and bye.